Hey, it's Alex from Android Central, and this is the LG G Flex 2. It's LG's second generation flexible phone with a curved screen, and the follow up to the original G Flex, one of the quirkier Android phones of 2014. This time round, though, LG's made some important changes. It's got a smaller 5.5-inch OLED display with a higher resolution, and it's also the first handset to ship with a Snapdragon 810 processor, making it the first fully 64-bit Android phone. On the outside, you're looking at a cross between the original G Flex and the LG G3. LG's trademark rear-mounted buttons are on the back, and you've got a choice of platinum silver or flamenco red colour options, unless you're on Sprint, which for some reason is calling it volcano red. In any case, both colours have this neat reflective pattern on the back, circling out from the power button, and as before, the back panel is treated with a self-healing coating, an upgraded version, LG says, to help it recover from small scratches that you might pick up. It has a tacky feel to it, but it's not as slippery as older Samsung phones or LG's own G2. In fact, the main problem we encounter with a self-healing back is that it becomes a total magnet for any kind of dust or lint on surfaces or in your pockets, which becomes an occasional annoyance. Back around the front, you're looking at a 5.5-inch 1920 by 1080 resolution flexible OLED display using the same plastic OLED technology we've seen on the G Watch R and other devices. In a world of Note 4s and Nexus 6s, the G Flex 2 isn't remarkable in its size or its resolution. Nevertheless, 1080p is still more than enough for most stuff, and the phone does feel hefty in the hand thanks to its large top and bottom bezels and the relatively sharp corners. The gentle curve of the back does at least make that part relatively ergonomic, and a slightly easier fit in the pocket than a similarly sized flat smartphone. So this is a plastic phone, and that's exactly what it looks and feels like. If you're going to go flexible, plastic is pretty much a prerequisite, but obviously that means it doesn't feel anywhere near as premium as the many metal-framed Android phones out there. So yes, you can bend and flex this phone with enough force, which is a neat party trick, and the unique design may well save you from breaking the screen if you're lucky. But as you might expect, there are some compromises to be made, the big one being the quality of that bendy display. Most of the time it looks perfectly fine, however it's no match for Samsung's latest Super AMOLEDs, and if you approach it expecting a GS5 or Note 4 quality screen, then you will be disappointed. Colours are relatively muted, even though there's clearly some contrast enhancement going on, and though you can switch to a more vivid colour profile in the display settings, honestly that just looks even worse. While the screen is perfectly visible during the day, you'll run into problems using it in darker settings, since the minimum brightness level is alarmingly high. We saw the same thing on the G Watch R, and it means it's difficult to use in a darkened room without hurting your eyes. On top of that, the display has a weird graininess to it, not unlike what we've observed from older Super AMOLED panels. Overall, it just doesn't look as good as many Super AMOLED displays out there. It's not terrible looking by any means, but it's obvious that having a curved flexible OLED display still comes with some compromises attached. The screen isn't the only area where the G Flex 2 is a little underwhelming. It is the first 64-bit Android phone, running an all-singing, all-dancing Snapdragon 810 chip, but it's striking how outside of benchmarks it just doesn't feel like a particularly fast phone. That's not to say it's slow, but considering it's running a next-gen chip and in air quotes only pushing a 1080p display, we'd expect it to be flawlessly smooth, and right now that's just not the case. You'll get chart-topping scores in some benchmark apps, but day-to-day use just doesn't feel much quicker than many of the Android phones running lesser hardware. The firmware our device is using may be responsible for some of the weirdness we're seeing. We're using a Korean G Flex 2 right now, and apparently a firmware update is coming to address performance issues before the phone hits Western markets, so hopefully that'll address some of our concerns. In terms of the software itself, this is pretty much identical to what you'll find on a Lollipop upgraded LG G3. The G Flex 2 runs Android 5.0.1 out of the box, and the LG UI looks and feels just like what you get on a G3, complete with flattened icons, pastel colours, and preloaded apps that have a minimalist look to them. Though not as pretty as stock Android or HTC Sense, LG's UI manages not to overwhelm with features, and most of what's there is simple and easy to navigate. You'll get staple LG G3 features like the Smart Notice widget, bringing weather information and timely notifications to your home screen, as well as the optional slide-out panel for LG Health and Smart Tips, which aims to help you get to know your phone's various features over time. On top of that, LG's dual window mode and Q-Slide features give you an easy way to run certain apps in windowed mode, or split the screen between two of them. LG's also expanded upon its trademark knock-on and knock-code features with the ability to peek at timer notification icons without turning on the display, simply by dragging down on the screen while the phone's in standby mode. There is a bit of wonkiness to the way LG's implemented some Android Lollipop features though. Notifications don't expand smoothly on the lock screen, instead you need to tap on them and then swipe to unlock. And the madness that is priority interruptions continues, with no easy way to access priority mode and no mute option either. That's all the more confusing considering priority mode was accessible from the volume menu on the G3. The G Flex 2 comes with a 3000 mAh flexible battery. You can see it behind the removable back panel, but the battery itself is fixed in place. You'd think a battery of this size would provide ample power even for a high-end phone, but so far we've experienced average, maybe even slightly below average battery life from the G Flex 2. With mixed usage, we're looking at 12 hours off charger with around 3 hours of screen on time. With more intensive use, it's possible to kill the phone off alarmingly quickly. Again, we're expecting software updates soon to address performance issues, but regardless, it seems unlikely the G Flex 2 will become a battery life champion anytime soon. In any case, LG's now on board the quick charging bandwagon, with a faster charger being bundled with the G Flex 2 for quicker refills. When it comes to imaging, it's mostly a repeat performance of the LG G3 here, even though some of the camera hardware has been upgraded. There's a 13 megapixel camera around the back with OIS Plus for optical stabilization and laser-assisted autofocus, and on the whole the G Flex 2, like the G3, is one of the better Android cameras out there. You'll shoot up to 13 megapixels in 4x3 orientation, or 10 megapixels in 60x9, and there's also an auto HDR mode to help out with overly bright spots. As we've previously seen, this is a pretty versatile camera setup, though LG does tend to lose some fine detail through aggressive noise reduction. What's more, there are some gesture controls for easily taking selfies and then previewing your shot, which, for better or worse, LG tells us are optimized for use with selfie sticks. So that's the LG G Flex 2. It's a decent phone, a good phone even, but it's missing a few of the ingredients of a really great handset, specifically in the areas of performance, display quality, and battery life. That, it seems, is the cost of packing all this technology into a device that's also bendy and flexible. Is it the right phone for you? Well, that's going to come down to how much you value what makes it unique. But with more high-end 64-bit Android phones landing in the next month or so, one thing's for sure, the G Flex 2 is going to be a phone with plenty of competition.